issue with black men today, and that's why we have a lot of these issues, is because black men like to play victim before they like to open the ear and listen to the problem. Yeah. It's like the second that a black woman or a trans person or a gay person opens their mouth up to say anything, it's like, well, I mean, as a black man, I have all of this stuff, and and then before you know it, because you're black, and I think that that's the thing too. Yep. When we are black, what we do is that we sympathize, no matter if you're a gay man, trans woman, whatever, we sympathize, we say, oh shit.
Right.
You're right. It's hard to be a straight black man in America. And so I'm sorry. And he gets away. Right. And just like swiping, no swiping, he walks away like, got it.
Where is Dora Ed?
Got it.
I was just going to add to that. I think there is space to like critique the publications that don't report on R.Kelly. Thinking about like Complex, XXL, DJ Boost, right? Forbes, like XXL and Complex in those places like really don't report on it because they're owned by Viacom or they're owned by like the reality is like artists know how to pull articles, you know, like thinking even about Nicki Minaj, like I've seen multiple writers be like, hey, my piece got pulled because Nicki's people said I couldn't post it. You know,
fix that.
You know what I mean? Like, but that happens, and I think the reality is like if we really want to see a hip hop industry that is growing and is progressing and is keeping up with the times, shit has to change because right now hip hop is leagues behind where we need it to be.
And I think that, speaking of Nicki Minaj, that if we want a hip-hop community and culture that is accepting of and fair to those of us who exist on the margins in our community, we also have to be honest about our Cardi B's and our Nicki Minaj's and all the other women in hip-hop who have enabled men to be abusive. Nicki Minaj was fully aware of Nas's accusations and still dated him. Yeah. Cardi B is fully aware of Offset's homophobia, transphobia, all of that, and is married to him, right? Like girl, you didn't even just date him. You are married to this man. And Cardi has made her own comments, right? Like her own cis-sexist and heterosexist comments. And I think that is to say that like a lot of people in hip hop, like I don't want to put the onus on women because it's not on women, right? Like this culture has been created and cultivated by cis-het men, always. However, like if we are talking about accountability, radical accountability, and what that looks like, we have to be honest about the fact that women are asked to take part in this culture in order to be able to exist as hip hop, right? Like they're asked to not be vocal about misogyny and sexism and other issues that affect them if they want to make it in hip hop. When Nicki Minaj started talking about like issues that she dealt with misogyny, men shut her out. That was a lot of men in hip hop turned away from her. And so like I'm not sympathizing with her at all because I think that we have to hold them accountable. Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, all of them. However, we I think have to be honest about how all of that works with all these people in one place that was cultivated by black men. And so since we're talking about like women, specifically black women, because we are only concerned about black community, like Angela Rye and her cousin Angie and her undying like support and loyalty to Charlamagne Tha God is just another example, right? Like when Charlamagne was accused and a woman asked her on her IG comments like, girl, what's the TV session about Charlamagne? What's going on? Your clapback is my brother is not a fucking rapist, or she didn't curse because she's a professional. But my brother's not a rapist. Like, girl, are you joking? Like, there's undeniable evidence saying that he is a rapist, even beyond the story of the 15-year-old girl. And you are up here caping for this man because you got some resources and money from him. Like,
does she have a red cape or a blue cape?
It was red, white, and blue. And I just think that like that just is like a continuation of how we have to be honest about the women who enable these men to be abusive, not just to black women, but also to black queer folk, right? Like and black trans folk, because I think that in these conversations, because of the hypervisibility of the work of black women, they are oftentimes censored and rightfully so, but in doing that, like queer folks are oftentimes removed from the conversation, and I think that we have to be clear on the fact that these cishet black men are abusing and are raping and are antagonizing black queer kids, black queer folks, right? Like it not being brought to light yet is not to say that it's not being done, right? So I just think that all that plays a part in like Angela Rye, Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, all these women play a role in maintaining Nas, Biggie, Offset, all these men.
So what do we call it when women do stuff like that?
Ignorance.
Denial.
I think it's just
that sort of self, what is it? Like that self-hate, whereas they've subscribed to that patriarchy and that rape culture, and they've drunk the Kool-Aid, and now they're participating in it and defending it.
You have to preserve yourself once you get into it.
And I think it's something that was said earlier, like, well, it's not me. You know,
Yeah.
it's not happening to me, so if it's happening to her or someone else, like, okay.
It doesn't matter.
Cool, as long as I get my check, as we see with Angela Yee, Angela Yee literally sits through these interviews and watches Charlamagne sexually harass guests all the time.
Yes.
Like J-Lo literally sits this interview. He kept talking about how big her lips were the entire interview. Like, how can you sit through that as a black woman? And like, I've heard her story. I know about like she's worked hella hard to get where she's at, but I feel like it is by letting so much pass by.
Absolutely. I mean, they cut her off in every interview. They don't let her speak. They don't respect her opinion in every interview.
And she's okay with it because as long as her picture is on the banner, that's
Right.
As long as she's in the room.
Right.
As long as she's in the room and she can claim, but I'm on the hottest show in New York.
Right. And she gets a good check. Like Angela gets paid down. They all get paid.
I never forget.
Way too
I never forget
right?
what Kate Bashir had got on her. You as
And
And she was quiet.
She's
Exactly.
like,
because you know you're wrong.
Exactly.
And she knows better.
Kate Michelle's
Right.
also about that action.
And I think that like
well, she's not being homophobic.
Exactly.
right.
Well, here's the tea.
I think that like we also need to be very, very clear on the fact that people didn't really start. I mean, outside of queer folks and trans folks, didn't really start like talking about Angela Yee's role in Charlamagne Tha God and like DJ whatever the hell they can be. We didn't start talking about that until they started attacking a fat black dark skinned woman. Monique was the point that people started talking about what was happening, right? For their performative activism, for their like performative takes on what was happening to black women and black queer folks for so long. And I think that that's important to point out because like time and time again we see that fat dark skinned black women are always the point of controversy for people. They're always like the joke for folks. They're always they're always the people that folks can go to talk shit about, to make jokes about, and not take serious. Until Monique had to sit in the interview herself, defending herself against Angela Yee, DJ Envy, and Charlamagne Tha God before people were able to take it seriously. And I think that is an important point. Like, I don't think Angela Yee would be getting the pushback that she's getting now outside of queer folks and women if not for Monique's point on that show to say, sister, what's going on? Like, we don't have to be. We don't have to be
that brother.
You're that brother.
You're that brother.
But she sat and talked to Angela like, you don't have to be afraid to hug me. Like, we sisters. You just get up, I'm holding you, period. Right. So I think that like that point is important because a lot of this also gets missed in that fat black women are oftentimes points of abuse, not just physical or emotional, but also sexual abuse that gets ignored because of their fatness, and oftentimes are not even allowed to be a part of the conversation until we get to these really big pivotal moments and movements that we can start saying, oh, well, also to mention this person.
Makes me think about that situation with Usher last year.
I was just thinking about that.
I was very disappointed because I was just, well, that's not happening. But like, what are you saying when you say that? Like, you don't know what the fuck they like. And going back to even Angela Rye, I never want anyone to speak and say that's not like, not my brother, not Justin J, not the King Reed, bitch. You don't know what the fuck.
You don't know me.
Right.
And I don't want anybody to stick their neck out for me because, bitch, I might have robbed the bank, bitch.
I probably did.
I might have did, bitch. I might be able to reset some shit. Like, not right now, but times ain't that hard. But bitch, I probably will because I gotta keep the lights on. Hello. But I didn't see the point of Angela sticking her neck out like that, and they were gonna hold her to a different standard.
Absolutely.
Like, girl, you'll lose your shit before Charlamagne. And he ain't gonna do shit because he's not done shit for the black woman who's been on his goddamn show, but fucking harass them.
And the problem is that like Angela Rye doesn't have the same backing that Charlamagne does, so it all boils down to capitalism. So like Charlamagne just He just got he was on MTV2. Now he's getting what is it?
HBO.
Showtime, HBO.
Right.
So now he's got
Right.
So he's got all the lawyers, not only of his own lawyers from him being on Power 105.1, but now he's got the HBO lawyers that are these are families that are invested in his success, and so they're not going to let him go down.
Yeah, exactly.
I think with Angela Wright, what really annoyed me is when she said that the survivor was looking for a come up.
Right.
To me, you can't name one sexual assault survivor that's became a millionaire off of telling their story. Of course, the media is going to reach out to survivors to tell their story because the media is invested in trauma porn. That's what they want to promote. They're not invested in your healing. They're not invested in giving you resources. They're just invested in trauma porn. So her saying that really aggravated me, and also seeing Angela Wright on CNN and the way she talks about Donald Trump and his sexual assault cases. And she's like, oh, we need to listen to these women. We need to believe survivors. We need to always listen to them. But it didn't apply when we were talking about Charlamagne, when we were talking about your so-called brother. So why do we have to pick and choose what survivors we advocate for based on who we know?
Because as a black woman who's supposed to support her black community, you have to support all blackness no matter what, or else you're against us. So if you're not for us, meaning if you're not for black men, then you're against us.
Right.
Because black queer people, like trans people, other black women, we can be against them all we want to, but if we go against the black man, then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
I'm a hotep, I'm a white supremacist, I fall into, I drink too much of the milk and the Kool-Aid, I've had too many mayonnaise sandwiches, all of that.
Y'all need to sleep.
But as a black woman, we cannot, and I mean we cannot let our black kings fall, not for 1 second.
Right.
And I think that's what, it's that fear of not being black enough. And it's bigger than what it used to be back in the day where it was like, oh, you sound white. Now it's anything that you do against the black man or that goes against the black man's transgressions, whether we all know he dead ass wrong or not, you're supposed to support the foolishness.
Yeah.
Why are we supporting the foolishness? Is anybody in here supporting the foolishness?
I think all of us are supporting foolishness.
At some point, to some degree, there's
Because
somebody
I mean,
that's
if we're talking, right, and I
cultural.
think, even thinking about like the world we live in, like we live in a capitalist world, like there's no way we are not supporting the foolishness because like the way the bills are set up, we're not gonna, right? And so if we think about like black women in hip hop who've had to deal with this, it is because there's no other way to get into the industry other than to write the blurbs about Charlamagne in his new book or write the blurbs about Nicki Minaj's new album. Like even as a writer, like I was talking to Sean about this yesterday, I don't pitch things that I know I'm not gonna get through. Because what is the point? Nobody wants to hear me talk about depression or being a feminist or trying to talk about misogyny and queerphobia because Complex isn't gonna take it. XXL is not gonna take that. Like these publications do not give a fuck about that because the white people that own those publications are invested in white supremacy.
Well, King Reese will take them. We're not white on them.
But I think that is a conversation to be had, right? Like
I don't have a budget like
this ain't no. Well, maybe it is. I'm a better writer than half the folks that are writing these big publications, right? However, I'm never going to be in those big publications because my work is not compromised. I refuse to offer a voice that is not mine, right? But I almost can't fault people who do because times are hard. You gotta make some kind of bill some kind of way, right? But I think that this is the choice we have to make. I think that when we start talking about what we're supporting and how we're supporting it, I think all of us are engaged in some way because rape culture abuse is cultural, right? Like it is a cultural thing. So no matter what you intake, you're intaking something that is part of that makes up that culture. However, I think that we have to be accountable for and accounted to what we do intake. So like everyone knows I love Cardi B. I'm not going to unstand Cardi even though she's hot garbage. Sometimes, not always. I think that Cardi to me is more digestible because she has at least presented herself in a way that makes her seem like she wants to learn, whereas Charlamagne does not. Charlamagne is very clear; he does not want to learn. He does not care at all about what we're saying. Like that's it. However, I cannot willingly take in Cardi B acting like she's never done anything and that she's perfect, right? Because that would make me a fool. And I think that people, sure, you listen to Kanye's new album. I didn't, but okay, whatever. Consume what you want to consume because there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. However, what you can't do is say there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, which means that you can't consume something ethically under capitalism because all things under capitalism are unethical. That all product. However, you consumed the album now, okay, great. Don't say that Kanye has never caped for white supremacy, that Kanye has never been an abuser, that Kanye has never been anti-black, because you'd be lying, right? So I think that like we just have to be honest about what it is that we are consuming and how we're consuming it, and get to a point that at some point we cannot consume it. R.Kelly can never be consumed by me ever again.
Right.
Charlamagne Tha God's Breakfast Club will never be watched by me again, because Chris Brown, I will never watch him again, because they are serial abusers who are committed to abusing people like me, and I can't support that.
So can people come back from?
I think so. Get their ass beat.
Right, but I think that coming back has to be rooted in like real restorative justice and organizing, and I don't think people want to get into the real work of that, because like then that means that like the folks that have this surface level understanding of what activism is and organizing would probably have to step back. And people who have the real understanding, I feel like, okay, yeah, like, I mean, it's kind of like thinking about like Michael Vick, like he was hounded by white supremacy for like fighting dogs, and like it took probably like 10 years before he was able to like come back into the NFL.
I did not understand like the series.
Right, but he had to like do all these different commercials and give money to these organizations.
Well, you know they love to own something.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Like with Black folks, we as a collective, especially with hip hop, and as a reminder, hip hop is still super young. So hip hop is like coming up on 40.
Wow.
40, right? Like it's really young, and so for us to ask of hip hop to be like, okay, these are all the abusers. How are we going to hold them accountable? It's going to take a lot of time, and I think it's going to take as many articles and interviews as possible as us dragging these people until we can get to a point of being like, okay, let's talk about justice. But I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, because most of these niggas are still out here. So
it made me think about the conversation I had a couple of weeks ago where I was sitting in a room. Someone had shared the story of their abuse, and the person asked the question, have you forgiven them? Like, I just, like, well, how do you not know that they're working on themselves? I don't give a fuck.
Thank you.
I don't give a fuck about, like, once you done, there's no coming back from that shit. Like, girl, it's not like I ate an apple, I'm putting a seed down on a tree. Like, girl, like, you have done something to hurt someone. And they have to deal with their trauma forever.
And the onus is always put on survivors to be like, well, like, have you forgiven? Like,
this is
like, you're taking a while.
Are you dealing with that?
You guys should be over it, right? Like,
I want to speak to that. I want to play like sort of
devil's advocate.
Yeah, devil's advocate, because
don't use that. Definitely no advocates.
Okay. Sure. But being a queer person, right, and being in queer relationships, and being young in queer relationships, and not understanding relationship health. There's been times where I have exhibited abusive behaviors. There's been times where I've been survivors of people who have exhibited abusive behaviors. But now that I've evolved and gotten a little bit older and understood what a healthy relationship looks like, I can look back at my old relationship and say, wow, that thing that I did was trash. And look at these incidents that are happening in social media and be like, oh wow, this is trash. So I think that there is room for people to grow, but it takes people to hold themselves accountable. I'm not in the limelight. I'm not Charlamagne Tha God. I don't have the viewership or the following that he has. So luckily I've been able to grow outside of the limelight. So how do we sort of in our personal lives hold these people accountable?
Right.
I'm glad you brought that up. Because
I would just say I think the power of patriarchy tells them they don't have to, and I think being folks that maybe don't benefit from that or don't have the type of like capitalistic privilege that Charlamagne and R.Kelly have, people are always telling you yes. People are always telling you, we'll just ignore them, they're just hating on you. Whereas like in your situation, like people are like, oh yeah, that was super fucked up, and like you should think about that. But there are no people in their faces doing that. They only see Twitter, and they only see people yelling at them. They don't understand what accountability is, and nobody is around them. And that gets into celebrity culture and why we idolize people who are regular and broken and fucked up just like us. and why we should really think about like we should not put our faith in people who are people. You know, like
at the end of the
we
day.
know people who are rapists that we've been friends with. We know people who are survivors, and I think if there's no one telling them that this is fucked up and you should really take some time and go to a therapist, which why hasn't everyone? I think that's not going to. I don't think hip hop is there.
I mean, I don't think that everybody goes to therapists because that's.
Right.
I mean, that's
Money,
like
I didn't go to it.
money. You know, that person isn't gonna look like me. But answering your question, I think that doing that work personally is a lot, and it's a lot because I mean, a lot of people don't want to look at themselves and say, "Yo, like you're trash." And I think that like thinking about this and how like our day-to-day functions as like human beings are, for me, that goes to a white ass school. Going to parties with, you know, all these black people and knowing that I'm in the room with all these rapists, I'm in the room with all these black people who like, you know, like they stand for these rapists in this room. Why am I here? It becomes very suffocating. And knowing that, you know, many times as black people and within all our other identities, we have to balance between, yo, am I gonna have like a nice chill day today where I can listen to all my problematic faves, or am I just gonna check everybody's asses today? And I think that, you know, that's a balance that, you know, I think that people need to do, you know, personally that a lot of people don't want to do because what's the cost of that? Is the cost gonna be that I'm just checked out of social media, I'm just not gonna go to Chick-fil-A today, or I'm just not gonna listen to Cardi B today, so, and what am I missing out on? And I think, and also I think that people are gonna get their asses fucked up for allowing Trump, this orange ass man, to be a distraction for what the fuck is going on within our community. I understand Trump is a mess. Period. That's a no conversation. Period. But people are distracting themselves with what 2020 will look like in the presidential race, blah, 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 when people aren't thinking about how are we going to get there and what does it look like for us as a black community to be prepared for something like that. That includes all of these things, that includes rape, that includes, you know, what are queer people, how are they battling with this every day, all these things. So I think that the work is hard, but I think it's also necessary.
So come from somewhere, like I don't have a platform as big as Charlamagne. I hope to have a platform as big as he is, but know how to truly use it. And being in spaces like this have taught me a lot in holding myself to accountability, whatever you want to call it this week, it'll be something else. But Deshaun be on my ass all the time. There are a lot of folks who be on my ass, and I appreciate it. And I will say sometimes it does like, God damn, bitch, I just want to tell jokes, but I understand some of the things I've said if I go back and look at video. There are some times where I go look at some shit like, girl, it's gone. I'll delete it because some of the shit I said was hurtful, and I don't know what place it came from. And I think sometimes I do, and I want to make sure that I'm using my platform for the betterment and uplifting folks. It's truly important, and sometimes I am disappointed when certain things happen. There's one of my favorite folks who kind of influenced me to be where I'm at now. And they said some trash ass shit about black women. And I had to hold them accountable because what does it look like for me to be hopping on these folks' ass, and the moment somebody next to me, I don't speak on their ass? That makes it seem like I'm being very performative.